She was still breathing when the partygoers found her. Her head was bashed in, blood pooling on a dirt road in the dark, her left arm pinned under a chunk of asphalt weighing 35 pounds, and she was still flinching. She was 16 years old, her name was Adria Sauceda, and the man who left her there drove home, prayed, and went to sleep. When police came for him the next morning, he told them she ran away. What followed was 17 years of lies, a confession that only came on a gurney. A legal war that pulled in the United Nations, the White House, the Mexican government, the US Supreme Court, and a future US Senator named Ted Cruz. Presidents fought for the man who killed her. Nobody fought that hard for Adria. You are watching Justice Rewritten, the channel where the cases that shook the world get the full story they always deserved. If you are new here, welcome. Subscribe now so you never miss what we uncover next. Adria Alyssa Sauceda was born on the 27th of January 1978 in South San Antonio, Texas. Her family called her free-spirited. Her friends at school had a simpler name for her: Freckles. Not a case number, not a victim profile, Freckles. She lived on the south side with her father, Rene Sauceda, stepmother Cindy, older sister Nanette Sauceda Medina, and younger brother Joshua. Her biological mother was Esther Ruiz de Terry. Rene liked to remember one specific thing about her. She would kiss him on the forehead and leave a lipstick print without saying a word. He would walk around with it for hours until somebody finally told him, "That was Adria, that was Freckles." The Sauceda family was in transition in the spring of 1994. Rene had taken a new job in Dallas and moved ahead to get settled. The plan just 1 week away from happening was for Adria to join him there, a new city, a new chapter. She was 16 and her life was about to change in all the ways a life at 16 is supposed to change. At South San Antonio High School, she took honors classes and had just won her first school play role, Myrtle in Harvey. She loved The Smiths, The Cure, and Depeche Mode. She sewed her own clothes, wrote poetry, and worked part-time at McDonald's on the South Side. She was 1 week from Dallas, 1 week from the rest of her life. On the evening of Friday, the 20th of May 1994, Adria went to a neighborhood party a few streets from home, among people she knew, close enough to her own front door that she should have been perfectly safe. She was not. Her mother, Rachel Terry, later said publicly that a technicality does not give anyone the right to come to this country and do what was done to her daughter. Her father, Rene, told reporters the pain never left, that it felt like it had just happened. That is who Adria was, a girl with a nickname and a lipstick trick and a plan to move to Dallas in 7 days, a girl who deserved to grow old. Everything that follows traces back to her, to Freckles, to a 16-year-old girl from the south side of San Antonio who was 1 week away from the rest of her life. The 20th of May 1994 was a warm Texas Friday night. On Vincent Street, in a working-class neighborhood on the south side of San Antonio, a block party had taken shape at the property of a man named Juan Francisco Delgado, known to everyone simply as Paco. Dozens of people came and went. Alcohol moved freely through the crowd. Bexar County Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Vincent DeMaio later testified that Adria's blood alcohol level at death was 0.255, more than 2.5 times the legal driving limit, with a cocaine level of 0.32 milligrams per liter, well above the threshold at which cocaine produces its most powerful effects. By the early morning hours of May 21st, she could not stand, make decisions, or protect herself from anything. A witness named Mirasol Torres, who had gone to South San Antonio High School, who knew Adria, who knew her as Freckles, came around the side of the house and found Adria in the backyard, surrounded by a circle of men. 8 or 9 of them, according to trial testimony, taking turns. Mirasol moved toward her. She and another woman tried to reach Adria and pull her out of that circle. Adria, through the fog of everything in her system, told them to leave her alone. Those were not the words of someone making a choice. The men told Mirasol directly to leave, go get a drink, stop interfering. They were pushed away. A man named Simon Ortega was also at the party. An unidentified male approached him and invited him to join what was happening to Adria. Ortega refused. But he did not intervene. He testified later that the men appeared to move in dangerous circles and he was afraid of what would happen if he tried to stop them. The court record also established that one of the men present was overheard encouraging the others to use an object on Adria, a detail that would become relevant to what investigators found at the crime scene the following morning. 2 men were seen with Adria's purse near the edge of the party, later identified in connection with the case as Ralph Guerrero and Paco Delgado himself. They scattered its contents and threw it into a tree before police arrived. Neither was ever charged. By the time Humberto Leal Jr. arrived at that party in the early hours of May 21st, something had been done to Adria Sauceda that could not be undone. What happened next made it infinitely worse. Humberto Leal Jr. was 21 years old, born the 16th of January 1973 in Monterrey, Nuevo León, Mexico. He moved to San Antonio at approximately 2 years old. He dropped out after the 8th grade, worked as a mechanic, and was undocumented. No criminal record, no arrests, no convictions, simply a young man from the South Side who had never once been in serious trouble with the law. What the people around him did not know were the things beneath that surface. He had suffered neurological damage affecting his judgment and learning. He had documented mental disabilities that no one in the American criminal justice system had ever evaluated. And as a child, he had been subjected to abuse by his parish priest, a fact that would eventually appear in appellate filings, but that the jury who sentenced him to death never heard. There is also this. 2 weeks before the 20th of May 1994, Leal had been accused of assaulting another teenage girl, Melissa Ruiz, and biting her on the neck. He was never charged. Witnesses described him arriving visibly angry. He told everyone he knew Adria, knew her family, knew exactly where she lived, and would take her home personally. Ortega had doubts, but Leal was insistent and confident, and ultimately Ortega stepped aside. Witnesses told police that Leal drove away with Adria at approximately 5 in the morning in his father's 1977 Mercedes. She was alive, clothed, and as far as everyone at the party was concerned, on her way home. She was not on her way home. In the car, Adria began indicating directions, trying in whatever diminished capacity remained to guide him toward her house. Leal, by his own admission, deliberately turned the opposite direction. When Adria realized what was happening, she tried to get out. He refused to let her. She eventually got out. He followed her into the dark. What happened on that dirt road is what the evidence and court record would spend the next 17 years trying to fully account for. If you have been watching Justice Rewritten, you know this channel does not shy away from the facts. The truth matters. If you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that button so you are here for everything that comes next. At approximately 5:30 in the morning on the 21st of May 1994, Leal's brother Gualberto came back to the party. He told those still gathered that his brother had arrived home covered in blood and had said out loud in his own house that he had killed a girl. People went searching. Approximately 100 yards from the end of Vincent Street on a dirt road, they found Adria Sauceda. Her left arm was pinned beneath a chunk of asphalt, weighing between 30 and 40 pounds, roughly twice the size of her skull. A second bloodied rock lay near her right thigh. There was a wound running from the corner of her right eye to the center of her head. And the people who found her reported something that stayed with everyone who heard it in that courtroom, that despite everything done to her, Adria's body was still flinching when they reached her, still moving, as if something in her had not yet accepted what had been done. A piece of broken lumber 14 to 16 inches long with a screw embedded at one end was found still present in her body. It had not fallen there. It had been left. Dr. DeMaio's autopsy determined the fatal injuries were blows to the head delivered while Adria was in multiple positions, multiple impacts, not a single accident. Her neck showed signs of manual strangulation. Her hands showed defensive wounds. A tooth fragment from her thigh was later examined against evidence from Leal's mouth. At the Leal family home, police located Adria's blouse blood-stained, with hair on it. On the Mercedes, evidence technician Warren Titus found luminol-positive results on the exterior and interior passenger door panel with downward wipe marks consistent with someone cleaning the surface. No blood was found on Leal's jeans, boots, socks, or red t-shirt. The only biological material linking him to Adria was a minute spot on his underwear. Scratches and cuts on his face and chest were photographed by police that same day. Later that same day, Leal walked into a San Antonio police station and gave a written statement. First statement: Adria became agitated in the car, struck him and the steering wheel, the car hit a curb, she leaped out and ran, he waited 15 minutes and went home. Then detectives told him his brother Gualberto had already talked. Second statement: he admitted following Adria after she got out. He said she attacked him, he pushed her, she fell and did not get up, he tried to shake her awake, he saw bubbles coming from her nose. He panicked, went home, prayed, and told his family. Two statements, same building, same detectives, hours apart. The first claimed she ran. The second, produced only after he learned his brother had already talked, admitted he followed her, that she fell, that he left her. On the 17th of August 1994, a Bexar County grand jury indicted Humberto Leal Jr. on capital murder charges, murder committed in the course of kidnapping, and aggravated sexual assault. Case number 9, 4C R4696. The machinery that would eventually pull in presidents, ambassadors, and international courts had officially begun to turn. In July of 1995, the state of Texas brought Leal to trial in Bexar County District Court, San Antonio. The prosecution sought death. What unfolded was a window into how justice can be shaped by the quality of the lawyers involved, the reliability of the science presented, and the completeness of the picture given to 12 people in a box. Texas law required proof that the murder occurred during another felony kidnapping and sexual assault, because death cannot be imposed for murder alone when the victim is over 5 years old. The felony component was genuinely contested, and the prosecution's case relied on science that was far less solid than the jury was led to believe. Evidence technician Warren Titus presented luminol results as proof of Adria's blood in Leal's car, but luminol cannot distinguish human from animal blood and reacts to detergents and cleaning agents. No confirmatory testing was done. The defense raised no objection. DNA expert Megan Clement of LabCorp testified a blood spot on Leal's underwear made Adria a possible donor, not a confirmed match. In closing arguments, that possibility became near certainty. Dr. Elizabeth Johnson of the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office later submitted a sworn affidavit concluding Clement's methodology was deeply flawed and her testimony highly misleading. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals later acknowledged that no one could credibly claim, with the science available at trial, that an unknown blood sample came from a specific individual, years too late to matter. A forensic odontologist testified that 3 bite marks on Adria's body matched Leal's dental impressions. A 1,999 study by the American Board of Forensic Odontology found bite mark comparison has a false positive rate of 63.5%. Courts across the country have since excluded this evidence as unreliable. In 1995 Bexar County, it went in without a single defense challenge. Leal's court-appointed attorney was Jose M. Guerrero, suspended twice for ethical violations and reprimanded twice more for failing clients. He hired no forensic experts, conducted no independent investigation, and mounted no meaningful challenge to any prosecution forensic testimony. He later admitted the defense had no resources and acknowledged that Mexican consulate involvement could likely have changed the outcome. The jury never heard that Leal had suffered neurological damage affecting his judgment. They never heard about childhood abuse by his parish priest. The sentencing phase lasted one single day. During sentencing, Melissa Ruiz testified that 2 weeks before Adria's murder in early May 1994, Leal had assaulted her and bitten her on the neck. He was never charged. In a capital sentencing proceeding, that testimony carries enormous weight. Leal took the stand. He acknowledged being intoxicated, he described a struggle, and claimed self-defense. He denied responsibility for what occurred before Adria's death. Then he said something extraordinary. He told the jury that any person capable of doing what was done to Adria Sauceda was violent and dangerous. Then he looked at those 12 people and said that person was not him. The jury deliberated 45 minutes. Guilty. The following day, in less than 2 hours, death. He was assigned death row ID 999162, housed at the Ellis unit, then transferred to the Polunsky unit in Livingston, Texas in 1999. Most people assumed the case was over. It was not. When San Antonio police arrested Leal in May of 1994, they failed to tell him one thing: he was legally entitled to know that as a Mexican citizen, he had the right under Article 36 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations to contact the Mexican consulate. The United States had ratified that treaty in 1963. Leal did not disclose his Mexican nationality at arrest. His defense team never raised the issue at trial. He sat on death row 2 years before learning about his consular right, not from any lawyer or official, but from a fellow prisoner inside the Polunsky unit. In 1998, he filed an appeal grounded in that violation. Then, on the 31st of March 2004, the International Court of Justice, the principal judicial body of the United Nations, seated in The Hague, issued a landmark ruling in Avena and other Mexican nationals brought by Mexico against the United States. The court found the U.S. had violated the Vienna Convention for 51 Mexican nationals on death row. Leal was one of them. It ordered review and reconsideration of all 51 cases, not a suggestion. A binding international ruling. President George W. Bush in 2005 directed state courts to comply. Texas refused, arguing state courts were not bound by foreign tribunals. In 2008, the ICJ issued provisional measures specifically naming Leal among those it was requesting not be executed while the legal process continued. The United States did not comply. In 2009, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights found his fair trial rights had been violated and said proceeding with his execution would constitute a deliberate and egregious violation of the right to life. A date had been set July 7th. The Obama administration intervened directly. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton filed a formal brief supporting a stay. Attorney General Eric Holder did the same. Solicitor General Donald Verrilli Jr. submitted a 30-page Supreme Court brief warning of irreparable breach of international obligations and risk to Americans abroad who might one day need consular assistance, requesting a delay until January 2012. On the 14th of June 2011, Senator Patrick Leahy introduced the Consular Notification Compliance Act legislation that would have compelled states to comply with the ICJ ruling. It had no chance of passing in time. Mexico's Ambassador Arturo Saracan attempted to reach Governor Rick Perry directly by phone. Perry refused the call. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles voted unanimously against commutation. Perry followed the recommendation. Ted Cruz, then Texas's former Solicitor General, who had argued the 2008 Supreme Court case for the state and now a Republican Senate candidate, told CNN the question was not whether a foreign national deserves consular access. The question, he said, was whether years after a conviction, it was appropriate to attempt to set it aside on a claim never raised at trial. On the 7th of July, 2011, the Supreme Court split 5-4 along conservative and liberal lines and denied the stay. The majority wrote it had no authority to halt an execution based on an appeal from the president unaccompanied by a persuasive legal claim. Justices Stephen Breyer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan dissented. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay said the execution undermined the International Court of Justice and its ramifications would spread far beyond Texas. Adria's mother Rachel Terry told KSAT News that a technicality does not give anyone the right to come to this country and do what was done to her child. Her father, Adria Sauceda, waiting in Dallas for a daughter who never came, said the pain felt like it had just happened. The 7th of July, 2011, Huntsville, Texas. The Walls Unit of the Texas State Penitentiary. Humberto Leal Jr. was 38 years old, 16 years on death row. His family mother Francisca, father Humberto Sr., brother Carlos, sister Nancy, had maintained his innocence at every stage and arrived at the end, still insisting the wrong man was about to die. His last meal was fried chicken, tacos guisados, fried okra, pico de gallo, and 2 Coca-Colas. In Guadalupe, Mexico, relatives gathered. When news came of the denied stay, some burned a shirt printed with the American flag. Mexico's foreign ministry issued a formal condemnation and note of protest to the State Department. Ambassador Saracan issued a public rebuke. At 6:21 in the evening, Central Standard Time, Humberto Leal Jr. was pronounced dead. But before that moment, he made a final statement, And what he said in that execution chamber is the thing that reframes every argument made in his name across 17 years. He said he had hurt a lot of people. He was taking full blame. He was sorry for what he did to the victim's family and asked for forgiveness. He believed he had been forgiven. Then he shouted it twice, "Viva Mexico, Viva Mexico." Then quietly, "Ready, Warden, let's get this show on the road." He grunted, he snored, and then he was still. 17 years of family defense, international wrangling, and governments fighting for him, and in the last minutes of his life, he said he was taking full blame. Not that the system had failed him, full blame for what he did. But here is what the execution left entirely untouched. 8 or 9 men surrounded Adria Sauceda at that party on Vincent Street, documented in court records and established by multiple witnesses. Biological evidence recovered from her body that could have identified those men with modern DNA technology was never tested. Requests by Leal's defense team to have it retested were denied. Not one of those men was ever identified, not one of them was ever formally questioned, not one ever faced charges or sat in front of a jury. Ralph Guerrero and Paco Delgado, seen scattering Adria's belongings before police arrived, were never charged with anything. When Leal was executed, the official record closed as though the full story had been told. It had not. Adria Sauceda was born on the 27th of January 1978. She was 16 years old and 1 week from a new life in Dallas when she was taken. She loved the Smiths and The Cure. She sewed her own clothes and wrote poetry. She played Myrtle in a school play and worked at McDonald's on the South Side and kissed her father on the forehead and left lipstick prints he would not notice until someone told him they were there. Her friends called her Freckles. She deserved every name from that party on Vincent Street in a courtroom. She deserved a full accounting. She deserved better than a case that stopped at one name when the night that took her life had so many. This has been Justice Rewritten. If this story moved you, if you believe Adria Sauceda deserved more than what the system gave her, drop a candle in the comments. Just one. Let her name fill this comment section tonight. She may not have gotten the justice she deserved in that courtroom, but she will not be forgotten here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed yet, please do it now. Every subscriber is another person who will know her name. We will see you in the next case.